Welcome back to Friday Focus. So we were doing the chapter life processes, and in the last lesson we learned about nutrition and started learning about autotrophic nutrition. So today we'll go more into depth in regarding autotrophic nutrition, and we'll taste a practical experience too by witnessing certain activities that have been mentioned in your textbook. So what are we waiting for? Let's start. So before we begin today's lesson, let's review what we already know about photosynthesis, because the activities that we are going to be doing are about factors affecting photosynthesis. So it's important we review and get our facts straight about what photosynthesis is. So we already learned that it's the process by which autotrophs take in carbon dioxide and water, which are then converted into carbohydrates, and that is done in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Okay, so chlorophyll is a pigment that captures sunlight and it's present in chloroplast. Yes, so this was the chemical equation that we derived. So it's 6CO2 plus 6H2O in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, which gives rise to glucose and oxygen. Right? Some of this glucose is used for growth. Some of this glucose is again used for respiration. Some of the oxygen is also used in respiration, and some of the oxygen is released into the atmosphere. So that's what happens to these products. So anyway, let's just revise where chlorophyll is present. It's present inside the mesophyll cells. It's present inside all plant cells, inside the organelles called as chloroplast. It's found mostly in mesophyll cells. That's where it's largest in numbers. So inside this chloroplast, chlorophyll is found. And we also need to learn a bit about stomata, which is nothing but the tiny pores or holes on the surface of the leaves, okay, which help in photosynthesis, that is gaseous exchange, and also in transpiration. There are some important uses of stomata, about which we'll be learning shortly. Now this stomata or the pore is guarded by guard cells. Okay, they are lined by guard cells which open and which help in opening and closing these stomata. So these are some facts we need to first basically understand. Now what are the steps in photosynthesis? First of all, light energy is absorbed and it's done by chlorophyll. Then this light energy is converted to chemical energy, and the water molecules are split into hydrogen and oxygen. Then this carbon dioxide that is taken in is reduced to carbohydrates, right? So these are the steps that can occur in different it need not occur in the same order. And we also learned about the special case in desert plants, right? So another fact that we need to remember as a foundation to this class is that extra carbohydrates are stored in the form of starch inside the plant cells, okay? They were stored in the form of starch as an internal energy reserve for future use. Now, how many of you remember we had learnt in class 9 in the chapter Fundamental Unit of Life that starch is stored in certain locations inside the plant cell. So can you remember which organelle that is? Again, it is located in a certain kind of plastid called as amyloplast. So amyloplast inside plant cells stores extra carbohydrates in the form of starch as energy source for future use if and when there's no photosynthesis that can take place. If the plant's unable to do any photosynthesis and it needs energy, it uses this starch that has been stored before. Okay, so this is another important point that we must keep in mind while we view the activities being performed. We'll be witnessing activities that test for the importance of chlorophyll and the importance of carbon dioxide in photosynthesis, right? So before that, this is the picture of the starch granules inside the amyloplasts of potato cells, okay? So if you just take the starch granules, look at their geometry. They look so Pretty, right? Yeah. Before we start witnessing the activities, it's important that we know certain points about stomata, right? In order to understand the full functioning of the plant, we need to know a little bit about stomata. Now, what are stomata? I mean, it comes from the word stomata, comes from the Greek word stoma, which means mouth in Greek. So, they're nothing but tiny pores found on the pores means holes, okay? Tiny pores found on the surface of leaves through which massive amounts of gaseous exchange and transpiration takes place. So gaseous exchange also takes place and loss of water. Transpiration is nothing but loss of water. Okay, they both these things take place in through stomata. So the main function of stomata is in gaseous exchange. That is, it closes when the plant does not need much carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, and it opens when the plant needs carbon dioxide. Okay, so in the left hand side you can see on the top the open and closed stomata are shown as diagrams that are clearly labeled, and we can see that the opening and closing of stomata are being done by certain specialized cells called guard cells, right? Can you spot the guard cells? Those are nothing but the kidney-shaped cells in between. Those are the guard cells, right? So, firstly, stomata closes when it does not need carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. So below in the diagram, you can see the microscopic images of open and closed stomata. So, in both the pictures, the left side ones are stomata that are open, okay? So, and on the right hand side, both those pictures indicate a closed stomata. Now, not just gaseous exchange. Stomata also helps in conservation of water. So, how does that occur? When the plant has enough water. That means the plant does not need any more water. So, in that cases, the guard cells swell up and open the stomata. That means when the plant has enough water and does not need any more water, it can afford to lose little water through transpiration. So, in that situation, the guard cells swell up. So, you can see in both the pictures where the stomata are open, you can see that the guard cells are big. That's because they have swollen up, because there is enough water in the cells. So, they have swollen up and opened. Okay. So, now the plant can easily take in carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. And it does not have to worry about losing a little bit of water through transpiration because there's enough water. Okay. Now, the opposite case, when the plant is not getting enough water, in that case, the plant also cannot afford to lose water, right? Because it doesn't have enough water. So, it has to close its stomata. So, how does the guard cell do that? The guard cells can't swell and the stomata will stay closed so that the plant doesn't lose water, right? So, if the plant has enough water, guard cells swell up and open the stomata. Okay. When the plant is not getting enough water, the guard cells do not swell up and the stomata remains closed. So, this is how stomata help in conserving water. Okay. So, an open stomata also allows for gaseous exchange. So, in the second case, when the plant can't open its stomata, if that second situation where the plant is not getting enough water continues for a longer time, the thing is photosynthesis can't occur because it needs carbon dioxide, okay? So, if the stomata are closed for a long time, photosynthesis can't happen and eventually the plant might starve. Now, in the activities that will be following, we'll be testing for factors affecting photosynthesis. Okay, the first two factors that we are going to be testing for are, first one, the first test checks for the importance of chlorophyll and second one checks for the importance of carbon dioxide. Now, in both these tests, there are a few common pointers, common steps, right? So, in both these activities, we conclude the occurrence of photosynthesis using iodine test. And what is iodine test used for? For testing the presence of starch. Iodine turns parts containing starch into blue-black color. So remember, that the extra carbohydrates that are created during photosynthesis are stored in the form of starch in plants, right? So if there is starch, it means photosynthesis has occurred, right? And how do we test if the starch is present? Using this iodine test, because iodine turns parts containing starch into blue-black. There is another step which is common, in which we boil the leaf in alcohol. Before the iodine test, we boil the leaf in alcohol. That is because we have to bleach. That is because it results in bleaching of leaf. That means chlorophyll pigments are removed. So it becomes easier for the identification of the starch. When that green color is there, on top of that when blue-black color if appears, then you can't really make out the difference, right? So that we can really clearly make out the blue-black color of iodine, it is important that all the chlorophyll pigment is taken off just before the testing of just before the iodine test. First step that we'll be doing is called destarching. That's because the starch that we are testing for occurrence of photosynthesis, it's very important that it comes from the time period of the experiment. Sometimes if starch that has been stored since a long time before the experiment, that can also remain in the plant. So that will interfere in our results. So that's why it's important that the plant starts fresh during our experiment. So destarching is done before the experiment. That means whatever starch might be present in the plant before the experiment, we make sure that it is all used up by the plant. So how do we do that? By making sure that no photosynthesis occurs. When photosynthesis does not occur, obviously the plant will use its internal energy reserve, that is use its starch that it has stored before. How is it done? For up to 3 days the plant is kept in dark. So it uses up all that starch and then the plant gets ready for the experiment. That means it has zero starch from before, and whatever starch we'll be testing for during iodine, that starch will come from the experiment, right? So our results will be accurate. So that means if we take these activities one by one, if they take the steps of the activities one by one, what remains common are these 3 things. First, we destarch the plant. Second, we boil the leaf in alcohol just before testing it, and to make sure that the chlorophyll is removed so that we can see the result clearly. And thirdly, we do the iodine test, which tests for the presence of starch. In other words, which tests for the occurrence of photosynthesis. Now the exciting time begins. Now let's view the activities on factors affecting photosynthesis one by one. Yeah, so firstly, we'll witness the activity that demonstrates that chlorophyll is important for photosynthesis, right? So for this experiment, what we need is a plant with variegated leaves. Now, what do you mean by that? Leaves that has both green parts and other colored parts. So such variegated plants are available very commonly. Like the most common example is money plant. Here he has used a different plant for the same purpose. So other requirements are beaker, test tube, alcohol. Here isopropyl alcohol is used. Then of course aqueous iodine solution, few petri dishes and forceps. So first is destarching. Potted plant is kept in darkness for 2 to 3 days and then it is placed in sunlight for several hours. So in these 2 to 3 days, all the old starch is completely used by the plant, and in these several hours of its presence in sunlight, hopefully photosynthesis has occurred. Pluck a leaf out of that plant and then take its picture so that we get a picture of how the leaf looked before the experiment, right? And then put it inside a test tube containing alcohol, and we have to boil it. And for boiling this leaf put inside alcohol, we don't put it directly on the flame or directly onto the heat, but we dip or immerse the test tube containing alcohol and leaf inside a water bath and then boil it. Can you think why that is done so? Well, first of all, why boil in alcohol? We have already learned that because we need the chlorophyll to be lifted off, right? We need that bleaching effect. And why boil? By immersing it in water bath. So alcohol is a highly inflammable substance. So that's why alcohol is used in our hand sanitizers, and that's why these days there is a lot of talk about warnings going around saying that keep it away from the kitchen, keep it away from the flames, right? So that is why it's boiled in a water bath. Now it's best that while boiling we use a hot plate like this and not direct flames. Even if you're using Bunsen burner, be very, very careful, because this alcohol solution catching fire is a common thing while doing this activity. Okay. Yes. So the leaf has gotten bleached. More or less the chlorophyll pigment has gotten lifted. So once the boiling stops, put off the flame and take the solution out, take the leaf out. Then we give it a final dip in the hot water so as to make it soft and wash away the alcohol. And finally, we put it inside iodine solution. Just note how dilute this iodine solution is. Because if you use a very concentrated iodine solution, again the result will be not so clear. So here you can see the result very clearly. The leaf before alcohol bleaching and before the leaf before the experiment and the leaf after the experiment, right? So after iodine test and bleaching, the leaf has turned blue-black exactly where the green pigment, that is chlorophyll, was there, right? So only the green parts has starch in them. So what does it mean? Only the green parts have undergone or have only photosynthesis has taken place only in the green plants, whereas the other areas do not show any significant color change. So that's how we can conclude that chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis, right? Now the next experiment is to demonstrate the importance of carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. So for this we need two plants. Okay, two plants of nearly the same size and preferably the same species, and bell jars or plastic covers. Yeah, the requirements are more or less the same. The beakers, test tubes. This time we need two sets. Then alcohol and iodine solution and forceps, right? So here, because he is using the plastic covers, he needs masking tape. Now the main ingredient for this is the KOH, potassium hydroxide, and water, right? So here he's using plastic bag, so plastic bag for him, and if you have bell jars you can use that too in your lab. So firstly, destarching is done by keeping the plants in dark for 2 to 3 days, so all the starch is used up by the plant. Then the plants are kept in sunlight for a few hours, and whilst they are kept in the sunlight, in one plant a beaker full of KOH is kept, in the other distilled water, beaker with distilled water is kept, and they are both closed, sealed off by the plastic bags. So the pot containing the distilled water solution acts as the control, as in it tells us how it would have been, how the plant would have acted if there was no KOH, right? If we hadn't changed the conditions. So after a few hours of their presence in sunlight, we take them out and pluck leaves of almost the same size and perform the iodine test. So how do we do that? Dip it in alcohol and a test tube containing alcohol. This time we have to label which one is potassium hydroxide and which one is water, so that our results doesn't get muddled up. Then put it inside water bath and boil it. Better avoid direct flames and use a hot plate, as alcohol is highly inflammable. And now you can see when it's getting boiled, in this case we can easily see the chlorophyll being lifted off from the leaves. So actually here the alcohol is in fact turning into green. So this bleaching helps us to view the results of the iodine test more clearly. The leaf is given one final dip in the water bath, boiling water, so that all the alcohol is lifted off and so that this leaf becomes softer. Then both of them are put inside iodine solutions that are specifically labeled. Yeah, so over here we can see the control leaf. The photosynthesis has happened, whereas in whichever pot the potassium hydroxide was present, it did not turn blue black. That means there was no photosynthesis. Why so? Because potassium hydroxide is known to absorb gaseous carbon dioxide. So whatever carbon dioxide was present inside that bell jar or inside the plastic bag, all that was absorbed by KOH. So since there was no carbon dioxide, no photosynthesis occurred. Right? So that is how we conclude, whereas it has happened in the control. So that's how we conclude that for photosynthesis to happen, carbon dioxide is an essential factor. Now, after these two activities in your textbook, they have asked you if you can design an experiment for testing the importance of sunlight, okay, in the same way. So in the same way, as in what they mean is that using iodine test and destarching, those three common steps that we earlier talked about, using those steps can we design an activity to demonstrate that sunlight is important. So here is one activity or experiment that we can do to demonstrate the sunlight is important for photosynthesis. Again, a potted plant is taken and kept for 2-3 days in dark for destarching. Then a black chart paper is taken around the same size as that of the leaf, and it's folded into two, and only the upper fold there is a slit that is made, a T-shaped slit. So this blocks out light everywhere else in the leaf except for that T-shaped slit, right? So we make sure that it is nicely fit and snug on the leaf. So we can use U-pins for that, paper clips. Yeah, so in this you can nicely see that the parts that has been covered with the black chart paper are not exposed to light, whereas the T-shaped slit and above and below this chart paper, those parts are exposed to light. So if we perform an iodine test for this leaf after a few hours of it in sunlight, we can get to know how it responds when there is no light and how it responds when there is light, right? So let us see what happens. Meanwhile, you may guess the result. So it's been around in sunlight for a few hours. Then it's plucked out. The paper is taken out carefully. The leaf is again put into alcohol solution. It's put inside alcohol, inside a test tube. It's plugged, immersed into a water bath and boiled. The leaf gets bleached. Chlorophyll is taken. Chlorophyll pigment is taken away by the alcohol. You see the test tube itself is turning into green. That means the chlorophyll pigment, it's removing from the leaf. That means bleaching is happening. Then one last dip inside the water to remove all the alcohol and to make the leaf soft for the iodine test. Then finally, let's put it inside iodine solution. Now slowly we can see the results arriving. You see the blue-black, that is the positive iodine test, has happened only in those green areas which was exposed to sunlight. Remember? And the parts which were covered by the black chart paper, those are testing negative for the starch test. That means photosynthesis did not occur there. Yes, so it was very interesting, right, to see all those activities in action. So all these videos have been brought to you by Mr. Thomas. You can check out his YouTube channel, which is full of interesting activities which are beautifully explained like this. So I'll give the link towards his channel below, and you can all check out the different lab experiments, interesting ones that he has done in his lab, right? So coming back to our lesson. Now we know what are the factors that affect photosynthesis and that are important for photosynthesis, right? So we have also already learned that nutrition must provide energy and it must also provide raw materials for growth and maintenance, right? So in autotrophs, it receives energy by photosynthesis. Okay, now where does it receive the raw material for growth and maintenance? And what are these raw materials? Basically, elements like nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, magnesium. These are the raw materials that a plant needs for its growth and maintenance. And all of these it receives from soil, right? The energy and the carbohydrates are provided by photosynthesis, and the raw materials needed for growth and maintenance are provided by the soil. Okay, and especially the case of nitrogen is very important because you'll be learning about it in coming chapters, coming classes, and it is very interesting. That is because different plants have different ways of taking in nitrogen, which is very important for plants. So nitrogen is either taken up as nitrates and nitrites, or as organic compounds prepared from atmospheric nitrogen by bacteria. That means some bacteria take up atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into organic compounds. The plant in turn takes up these organic compounds and derives nitrogen from them. Right? So plants work with bacteria for their needs of nitrogen. So that's it for today's class. We'll just review what all we learned. We reviewed photosynthesis and understood it in greater depth. And we also learned about the structure and role of stomata in gaseous exchange as well as in water conservation. We looked at how they look underneath the microscope. Then we also witnessed the tests for factors affecting photosynthesis. And what are the factors that we tested for? Chlorophyll, carbon dioxide and sunlight. Okay. And we know the basic steps right now, right? Of iodine test, of testing for photosynthesis, right? We know what destarching is, we know what bleaching is, and we know what iodine test is. And we also learned from where plants acquire their energy requirements as well as their requirement for raw materials for building and maintaining their bodies, right? So that's it for today's class. See you in the next class. Thank you.